Hey, this video was a quite large undertaking for me. My equipment failed multiple times, I had to start and stop recording because my equipment was even overheating. I don't know if I'm going to be motivated to make more of these videos, but I hope I am. But in case I'm not, please subscribe and comment what your favorite part of the video was so I can stay motivated for sure. Thank you, and good night. These are full-size VHS camcorders, as in they take normal old VHS tapes. VHS was a recording system that was quite popular for the home in the late 70s and through to the 2000s. These are some camcorders where you could just insert a tape, if there was a battery in here, record some shizzle, then take the tape right out of the camera and put it directly into your home VCR right under your TV and play it for your own enjoyment. Just like a movie. I've already made a video about this, kind of introducing these two machines and introducing this series of sorts. So watch that one before this one. I am Mr. Red, and welcome back to Mellowcore. Right, so features, yes. Features. These cameras are pretty void of what one would call features, but that's just because they were made pretty late in the 90s, pretty late in the circulation of VHS, but I gotta start somewhere. This is in fact the battery that I will not be using. The reason for this is, well, it's the only one I have, and likely none of these will be made ever again, so I'm going to draw power directly from the wall instead of using this, as to not waste its usefulness. We're going to use this battery in about 5 different camcorders throughout this series, so if this one quits working, that's no good. Anyway, this battery has a capacity of only 1600 milliamp hours, and compared with the original, which I'm not gonna go get right now, it's about the same. So the same runtime, basically. I never understood why companies would produce a replacement battery for something that's this big and then not provide more capacity. I just don't get it, especially with the onwards march of technology. It's just, why would they not put more power into this? I don't get it. Seems like quite the waste. What's strange about this specific battery though, is the company that made it, or at least sold it. It's Batteries Plus, and they actually still exist. They don't make this one anymore, I did check. That's not terribly surprising though, because this battery technology is called nickel cadmium. That's actually what it says on it. And the tech that was used before nickel cadmium was called lead acid. There's actually a camcorder in this series upcoming that uses lead acid batteries. It's like a little tiny mini car battery. It's really weird. So for now, I'm gonna plug the camcorder straight into the wall. Actually, not straight into the wall. That's what I wrote in the script, but that's not actually true. I have to plug this power adapter into the wall, which also doubles as a battery charger. In fact, that's actually its main purpose, is to be a battery charger, but it also provides the power jack for the camera. But I'm actually going to use this one to demonstrate because it's a little bit easier to do so. On some models of RCA camcorders that are older than these ones, the charger actually just plonks on the back of the camcorder, like a fake battery, just like that. It just like slides on there like a battery does. And there's another name for those that I'd use, but I want the show to be as PG as possible. This is a mildly short cable that came with the camcorder that goes from the charger's DC out port to the camcorder's DC in port, located on the back of the camcorder, where the battery would go. This means it's also impossible to charge the battery in place, but 90s will be 90s. So there's really something stupid about this DC jack. What is it? Well, if you put a battery on here, it will in fact not charge it. And why? Well, it's because the DC jack has something in it. I'm not even kidding. It doesn't even check if there's power drawing from it going to a camera. It just checks if the DC plug is plugged in. So as soon as we disconnect this, the charge light comes on and everything's good. Really stupid. So if you leave this cable plugged in and then forget, your battery won't be charged. This is incredibly stupid. Just a little more about the power situation, I promise. So this battery can only hold 1600 milliamp hours. That's pretty bad. That's just not much energy. But the thing is, this camcorder doesn't actually use that much. It uses about 15 watts or less when in use. That's actually less than the R5C uses that I'm using to record this video. Because of these excellent power metrics, this camcorder can last well, in my testing, up to an hour with this battery, but an advertised hour and a half. But there's a problem. I simply don't have another battery. Because of this, I need to make a backpack. The modern influencer definition, that is. Meaning I put a full battery with an AC adapter on it, the camera's charger, and maybe an extra VHS tape into a small backpack, and I plug all of that together, plug the cable that goes to the camera into the charger here, make that come out of my backpack and go to the camera, which I am now holding up to use on the go. Yeah, to loosely quote Cathode Ray Dude again, I look like a baby Ghostbuster, but it works. And I've been able to get up to 3 hours of continuous use using this trick. I didn't actually test any further than that due to me wanting to spend time with my friends instead of testing, because I was actually hanging out with them at the time. Yeah. But since the camcorder only draws about 15 watts, and the battery I was showing before has a rated capacity of 100 watt hours, I could get up to like 10 hours of battery life doing that with this camcorder, which actually most of the other camcorders have the same kind of power draw, and that could actually be pretty practical for a continuous 10-hour recording time with one of the other camcorder's features, which I haven't gotten to yet. It's not either of these, it's a different one for a different video. Anyway, that's enough about the power. Apart from the fact that I'm grabbing the battery that I said I wouldn't be using in this video, let's go shooting. Oh, right, there's no tape in here yet. Whoops. So to open the tape door, you actually press the stop button. Wait, what? Oh yeah, the stop button is actually it's a three-purpose button. That seems outrageous, but we'll get to the three uses. Well, we can't stop a tape that's not even there, so when you repress it, after a second or two, opens the tape door with a loud kerlask. Yes, that is what I'm calling that sound. I'll insert a normal VHS tape, model this isn't a car channel, sorry, model T180, also called a 9-hour tape. Actually, this is a T160, an 8-hour tape. Whoa. But they'll only do 9 or 8 hours in SLP mode, also called super long play mode. And these camcorders, they only record in SP mode. Unless you bought the one that you had a choice on, and I'll make a video on that shortly. So it slides right into the mechanism like I slid into your Anyway, this ejecting is very violent, and it brings a fear to me of just things being so big that they shouldn't move on their own. It just seems too big and too fragile at the same time. You close the tape door manually once you're done, of course, with a loud clunk. And depending on what mode it's in, it'll either do nothing with the tape yet, or it'll thread it around the tape head drum. I might make a small video on how VHS recording works at a medium level, so if you want to see that, please comment and subscribe. This camcorder only records in SP mode, also known as standard play, which on the T180 tape I put into it, on the T160 tape I put into it, it'll get about 2.5 hours. Hence, T160, 160 minutes. Sorry, that's 2 hours and 40 minutes. Whoops. To turn it on, you press down the red center of the mode switch. And while holding that down, you slide the switch very carefully between either the camera or VCR mode. VCR mode is the playback mode, and camera mode is what you would think it is. Off is off. I say to switch it carefully because it's very easy to have the switch slip when you're trying to get it off and turn it into VCR mode, and then it like snaps back to off. It's really cheap and awkward, just awful. The CC437 here only started doing that after I took it apart when I thought it was broken. But the CC4352 here, that I'm gonna demonstrate here, has done it since I got it, so yeah. But I don't think this is a problem when they were new. I think this is just an age thing. So this is how you shoulder this thing. I mean, it's huge. What did you expect, really? So here's your zoom controls, and in the middle of that is the record button. I'll go into my backyard and shoot some test footage. This says it's low on battery, but I seriously doubt that. go down here to the white lines on the side of the house, which is really weird. See the weird stuff with that. You know, this footage isn't actually as bad as I thought it was going to be. I think. I only see the black and white part of it right now, but it doesn't seem all that bad, really. Well, if you try to record me, yeah, it's not doing a great job here, I don't think. Ugh. Can you get the deep green of the bucket? Not really. Oh, there we go. Kinda. Back here. The auto exposure. I have no idea what that is. Okay. I think that actually might be shutter speed. Maybe 120 shutter speed. 180? Huh. Weird. Something I probably won't say in the video is that I'm pretty sure this camcorder does actually have image stabilization on the camera part of it, so that's pretty good. And with the camera being pretty heavy, it makes for a not too bad shooting experience. Here's that R5C that films most of the videos around here. You can see the EOS badge right there, and where's the C? Oh, it's under it. There's you. Can't focus, but whatever. See how it does in like really low light. When here it's reasonably low light. I mean, you can see some stuff, right? I'm very convinced that the auto exposure is shutter speed for some of my crap, a lot of which I'm gonna do videos on. Low light, let's go. Some low light here. You can see how noisy it is, holy crap. But yeah. Having a lot of trouble focusing. There's my backup laptop. Yeah, it's not focusing very well. There you go. If you turn off the lights, it's now perfect. Just like she is. So you might have noticed, well, that footage looked pretty bad. Let me take out the tape real quick. Ugh, just sounds so horrendous. So you may have noticed that looked pretty bad. And I'm not really talking about just VHS quality. That's fine. That's not the problem. The issue is this camcorder doesn't have any manual controls. Like, at all. And neither does its brother. You can't focus manually, which means shooting in the dark is, well, a shot in the dark, due to its inability to focus in low light properly. But even modern cameras and camcorders have this issue. Even my $3,000 Canon R5C, which didn't even come with a lens, has this problem. That pisses me off. How could they not solve this? These camcorders also don't have a manual way to control how much light hits the sensor, as in iris or exposure, those things, or gain. This makes shooting people, or really any subject at all, very difficult if there's a light source behind them or next to them, like in view, in frame, like, I don't know, a window. And this also pisses me off, but it's also something that pretty much all cameras and camcorders that I've seen have problems with, except for my goddamn iPhone for some reason. So that's strange. So this model of camcorder has a color viewfinder, but no flip out screen. Now that might seem kind of absurd, especially since those were expected on every new camcorder going back to the early 90s. And it's strange too because the viewfinder, being in color, is actually an LCD. It's just very small, very crap, and very low resolution. Here's a bad shot from inside there. You know, actually it's not as bad as I thought. It's just not great and not really enough if it's your only option to see what you're shooting and see what you've shot. LCDs are very compact technology though, so that'll bring some pluses to the table that we'll discuss later. This color viewfinder is the only display capability, by the way, built into this camcorder. The only alternative would be if you plug your TV into this, or plug this into your TV. If you don't do that, this is the only way to see what you've recorded. It'd be kind of funny to watch a movie on this, but you wouldn't be able to hear it. This camcorder has no built-in speaker at all, which also pisses me off. You know, given the size of this thing, they could have put speakers in here, or at least a speaker. Especially since all the small camcorders coming out have speakers coming out the ass. Except maybe for the VHS-C camcorders. I don't have one of those, so I don't know. I'd love to do videos on those, but the eBay prices are just not great for someone who wants to, you know, be saving money right now, aka me. So yeah, no speaker, but we'll just plug in some wait a minute. Okay, as I was typing the script, I actually looked all around this thing and found out that there's no headphone jack. There's no way to hear what you've recorded at all, except to plug something into the RCA jacks. That's kind of shocking to me. Anyway, I'm going to bring both of these into focus here so I can show you the differences between these two, because it's pretty weird. The first and possibly the biggest difference to most people watching this is the CC4352, which I'm going to be saying wrong for the entire video. It's actually CC4532, cannot act as a standalone VHS recorder since it has no video or audio inputs. I actually discovered this as I was writing the script as well. That sucks. Like, that should be illegal in most states. What a waste of resources. The color viewfinder model that I have right here can take a video input and an audio input, actually, through the same RCA jacks that you would use to connect it up to a TV or something. It also has a switch for you to tell it what you're doing. If I could get the damn door open, that is. And there you go, as you see right there, has a video input and an audio input and a switch to go between them, to tell it if you want to do like video input or video output. You can use these jacks for both purposes, just not at the same time. The CC437 also has this weird jack at the bottom, which looks like a 2.5mm headphone jack, but it's actually not that. I have to guess that that's some kind of remote jack, but I'll never know since I don't have the manual and I don't want to pay $10,000 to get it. The CC4352 does not have the switch, of course, but it does still retain that, that jack right there. And these would just be video outputs then, because there's no switch. All right, viewfinders and screens. This is possibly the juiciest part of the video. The CC437, as mentioned before, has a color viewfinder, but no flip-out screen of any kind. I believe it is still a color LCD in here though, and it's housed in this pod, which rotates around this casing. And that has the camcorder's microphone and a light, or lamp, which is replaceable by the way. Probably because it's an incandescent bulb and those are really famous for just dying. This contraption swings in and out for either ease of use or ease of storage. Kind of like the Sharp sun cams that came out. You turn on the lamp by switching this control on the bottom left of the camcorder. If it had power, this would turn the lamp on, and, well, you probably could guess what auto does. Now let's take a look at the same contraption on the CC4352. Quite a bit different. For one, there's no lamp on the front, just an RCA logo. And I think I've actually figured out why that is. So before LCDs became commonplace, manufacturers would put little tiny CRT tube TVs in things instead of LCDs. You know, those like massive tube TVs, but just smaller ones. If you look in the viewfinder of the CC4352, you will see a little black and white CRT. Madam. Here's a good test. RCA cables. White, yellow, red. And there you have it. Or the face of one anyway. And it's in black and white, even though this camcorder does definitely record color video onto the tape and, you know, has a colored... Actually, we haven't gotten there yet. You can actually see the face of this little tube TV if you pull back this cover on the top of the viewfinder here. And underneath that cover, you can see the little tube TV right there. The color viewfinder in the other one was an LCD, and it fit well inside of its pod. But in this one, the screen's actually facing out here, into the wrong direction, and the mirror reflects the light coming from it directly into your vision in the eye cup, which is of course where you would be looking. Now there still has to be a microphone in this mess, so that's obviously still there, but the CRT display can't work on its own. For one, that was just the front of the tube. Where's the rest of it? Well, it has a huge badonkadonk, and that has to go somewhere, so it extends through here into this casing. But again, that's just the CRT itself, and that requires a decent amount of other circuitry around it to operate. And that's actually what else is stuffed into this casing here, and likely why there's no light on the front. LEDs weren't cheap or bright enough for that to be the solution, and they couldn't put anything else there, so they just took out the light completely. You can also hear a high-pitched kind of whine, kind of like one of those old big CRT TVs, because that's essentially exactly what this is. It's just smaller. There's also some adjustment controls around this contraption. This wheel on the outer pod is kind of like a focus wheel. I'm not really sure why, because there also seems to be a focus control on the other side right here, alongside a brightness control. These aren't wheels though, and are instead what are called pots, or potentiometers. Tuning adjustments on a lot of equipment is done this way, and this definitely isn't the last time we're going to see these. To work these, I'll need some kind of screwdriver. I was able to do it with a minus type screwdriver, but it definitely wants a Phillips. This viewfinder contraption turns off as soon as you open the flip-out LCD display located on the left side of the camcorder, and it is retained with this open latch and button. Most people would find, you know, this pretty cumbersome. So to make this a usable viewfinder, they actually added a little foot down here that flips out and gives you more length to the camcorder, which you can put comfortably on your shoulder. And this cable's in the way, but you wouldn't be shooting with that generally. And now you can actually see what you're shooting with this display. This is a quite cheap and dire display, however, though it is actually here this time, finally. This is the only full-size VHS camcorder that I've seen that has a flip-out LCD. Haven't even seen photos of any other one having one. The color accuracy of this display is ass, of course, but the resolution is all right. I definitely use this over the CC437's color viewfinder. It also seems like the contrast is very dependent on the brightness of the viewfinder. Maybe this is a direct contrast control and it's not actually brightness. That would make some sense. There's also a high voltage sign on the side here, which is weird because nothing in this should, use over 12 volts. And like everything's pretty low current, so I'm not sure what that's for. But there's the open release as well. And of course we have the brightness. But what's that? Oh yeah, that's a volume control. That's right, you know what that means. This unit has a built-in speaker. You probably spotted it a minute into this video, but whatever. It's right here on the side.
I guess this will have to do. So, there you go. Also, camcorder inception. Gotta love that. Calculus survive Weenor. Oh, wait a second. The first character changed. I don't know what happened there, but anyway. You should be able to see clear on the screen Calculus survive Weenor. So, there you go. And I think some weird face that's associated with furries or something. Anyway, that's enough.
It's a pretty bad speaker. It distorts after about half of full volume, but it's loud enough, and it's not like you'd be that far away from it if you're watching the screen or watching the viewfinder, so it works. And it's, there at all. The CC437 has a few controls around its viewfinder contraption pod. One is actually on the bottom, which is labeled bright for brightness presumably. And this is a proper control wheel instead of being a potentiometer like on the other camera. And you might think, actually, based on the design of the CC4532 here, or whatever it's called, that, these potentiometers, some of them would be present on this one, on the CC437. And that hole right there, right next to the brightness text, is a potentiometer. But it's actually not, despite the brightness text being next to that more than anything else. Across from that is the lamp release lever, which allows you to replace the lamp by just squeezing this, and there we go. That exposes the tiny light bulb inside of there. Instructions found near that cavity tell you to let the bulb cool before taking it out. Presumably after it died, after you've used it for a couple hours burning it out. And this assembly snaps back on here with minimal effort. If you're not an idiot, that is. I am, so it's gonna take me a bit to get this on here, but it should slide in with minimal effort, just like that. On the rotating pod that houses the LCD viewfinder, there's a neck wheel that seems to adjust focusing of said viewfinder. It actually has a little indent right there that shows you where it's supposed to be. So I'm not sure why you changed this at all, because it seems to be pretty perfect right there on the dot. So I'm not sure what that's for. Now let's switch back to the CC4532 or 4352, whatever the hell it is. 4352. Next to the speaker grill is a label of 72x digital zoom, which actually made me think that this model only had digital zoom, since this other one says 24x plus zoom. And this just says digital zoom. But the thing is, this doesn't sound true. I know that's a weird thing to say, but just listen. Yes, there's definitely motors in there doing stuff with the lens. And you can even see it actuate in the lens itself. And back again. So this definitely does have optical zoom of some sort. This is how that looks on video. This is going through the entire zoom range of this CC4352. Now compare that with the CC437's zoom range on video. This is again going through the entire zoom range of the other camcorder. I believe the final end of the zoom range of the CC437 is actually made up of digital zoom, like 8x digital zoom or something. But I don't think I have a good way of determining where the line is there, so I guess I'll never know until someone comes up with a way for me to determine that. I'm pretty sure that that's what they meant by 24 plus zoom. Pretty sure the plus is digital zoom. Might as well have been minus then. And to go with the zoom capability on these units, they both have an instant zoom button, which does this. It zooms in maybe 2x or 3x, but instantly, by doing digital zoom. Ew. There's also a digital zoom button, but only on the CC437. The digital zoom button on the 437 switches it into what I'm going to call digital zoom mode. I don't know how many X's this is, but I think it's more than 8x digital zoom. This mode also seems to switch the image into a 16:9 aspect ratio, which is disgusting. It also actually records onto the tape that way. What were they thinking? Another badge on both of them is actually DSP3. I don't know what that means, but I have to assume that that just means digital signal processor. And while we're looking at the outside, we might as well take a look at the lens, which is weird because unlike every other camera or lens I own, this one has no markings telling me what the specs are of the lens, who made it, you know, what it is, what the focal distance is, what the zoom range is. And I don't think any of the other camcorders I have or cameras just don't say what the lens is. I'd guess it'd have to be like an f1.2 lens or something, since that's what most old camcorders that I've seen have had. And that's a far cry from the f4.0 lens I'm recording this with, but camcorders just had bad sensors this long ago, so it was necessary. The lens is protected with a lens cap that actually press fits onto this ring, which you can in fact screw off for some reason. Takes a while, and it's just a weird ring that screws onto this. I'm not sure why they needed this. I'm not sure why this is an extra part at all, but there you go. If you want to stop your lens cap from going back on the camera, that's how to do it. Just take the ring off. It achieves nothing else. I think I detached the string that was attached to this lens cap that prevented you from losing it by having the string go back to the camcorder, which is permanently attached. I think I removed that because it was annoying me. You can see on this CC4352 that the string is still there. In hindsight, I probably should have just dealt with it and, you know, not detached the string, because now I wish I had it. Also, almost every time that I've started up one of these two camcorders, just these two units, about 75% of the time, the lens is always zoomed in a lot, and I have no idea what causes this or how to fix it. The CC4352 also has a button labeled Digital Effects, which switches between some very standard photo booth effects. 16:9 mode, X-ray, and back to normal, mirrored down the middle mode, overly pixelated, and back to normal again. All right, now for the playback features. There's not many, but they have some. Okay, this is a small annoyance. When you go into camera mode, it threads the tape around the video head drum in the VHS mechanism. But when you go into VCR mode, it unloads the tape. That doesn't make much sense, but it gets even worse. When you press the play button in VCR mode, it rethreads the tape. So what would be the point of it unthreading when going into VCR mode? It's not like it rewinds or anything, it just pops you right back to where you were pretty much. So I'm not sure what the point of that is. Although if you turn off the camera from camera mode, it'll actually keep the tape threaded. So when you go back into camera mode, you can start shooting pretty much immediately. Actually for this, I'm going to need a tape, so let me put a tape in the CC437, since that's what I'm going to be demoing here. They both have most of these features, but I've just found the CC437 more reliable since it's in better shape, so that's what I'm going to be using. But anyway, I don't need it threaded right now, so I'm not even going to turn on the camera. All right, about the buttons on top of both camcorders. Most of them are on both units, but there's definitely still some differences. So on the CC437, from left to right, the display button changes the info you see, or even if you see any info on screen. This info includes an auto exposure number, a minutes counter, a simple battery level indicator, and the word index, whatever that's supposed to be. I think that has to do with the next button, the reset button, which I think just resets the memory of how much tape you've used, because the camera can store that information. The date and time button is for superimposing the date and time onto your recording, as you're recording. It also has something to do with the titler, I think, based on this title setting that it shows if you press it enough times, but I can't figure that one out. The next button is actually for the built-in titler system, which I did in fact figure out most of, but we'll come back to that. In the middle of the controls, we have the camera off VCR switch, and further than that, on the right, we have the AV dub button, which is not actually present on the CC4352 because of what it does. This button seems to pass through the audio and video inputs on the side of the camcorder here into the VHS mechanism to be recorded. I couldn't get that to happen though, so I'm not really sure how that's supposed to work, but it's there, so I have to assume it worked when it was new. And to only record one signal or the other, audio or video, onto the tape, not overwriting the other one, I guess you just connect one or the other to the ports. The next buttons are the tape transport controls here. You got your rewind, your play, your fast forward, and stop eject here. Rewind is also review though, and I don't really know what that's meant to do. Maybe that's just what they call playing back what you just recorded while still in camera mode, because yes, you can actually do that on these. That's my best guess on what they meant by review. Further on the top of the unit is a handle that always seems to be broken on most of these units. My CC437 is quite lucky that it only has 2 tears in it, and these only happened after I started using it a bunch, so lucky for that. Not so lucky for the CC4352. And down from that is the battery eject button. But there's 2 buttons I didn't quite talk about. First is the titler, which again we'll come back to, and the other is the fade button on the side of both units. The titler is also on both units, by the way. The fade button looks different on both units though. This one has a bit of a concave in it on the 437, but on the 4352, it's a meatballs button, so I'm not sure what that's about. I'm not really sure what this does or how it works, since I couldn't figure it out. Instead, here's some footage of a demo that played randomly on the CC4352 that includes some fades. It looks like you can have them be different flat colors, and that there's some different shapes and types of fades included, which is pretty good. So now for the titler system. It's a little awkward. To use it, press the titler button, and a little white text cursor will appear a little right to the left part of the image. You can now start entering text one dang letter at a time by changing what letter is currently selected via the fast forward and rewind buttons, and choosing it by pressing the stop eject button? What? Oh yeah, that's actually the 3rd use of the stop eject button. It's strange that they didn't use the play button for that instead, because that just makes more sense, and the play button doesn't do anything when you have the titler running, so yeah, I'm not sure why. You can build up a word doing this, like so. To put a space, you just press the stop eject button just with the cursor there. It goes to the next line automatically after you've entered the maximum 16 characters on your current line. This titler system only supports 2 lines, by the way. You are supposed to be able to superimpose the text you've entered on the already recorded footage on your tape, but I couldn't figure out how to do that. So instead, here's some footage that I shot with the titler already on. I don't think this has a memory bank to keep track of which titles you've entered, so this is of limited usefulness, but it's still pretty cool. Here's some strange and random things that happened during the typing of this script that I don't know what to do with. I just noticed the small door near the bottom of both units, retained by a Phillips screw. I took that screw out, took off the door, and it exposes this white little surface mount 3-pin connector. I have absolutely no idea what this could be for. You might have noticed that neither of these units have stereo inputs or outputs, but that's quite normal. VHS wouldn't get stereo audio for a while. I mean, he was out by the time these came out for sure, even before the oldest camcorder was even made. But that's actually a separate extension to VHS, the standard, and these don't support that. And actually, nor do any other camcorders that I'm aware of. Therefore, they simply have 2 RCA jacks on them, one for the composite video and another for the mono audio. Most people have seen stereo RCA cables, so I figured I'd point that out just in case. Oh, also, here's the cable for an upcoming camcorder. Noticing anything? Here's something else kind of random. While typing the script, this camcorder just started playing a demo. Look at this shit. Apparently this camcorder has some kind of a demo that plays automatically if you just leave it for like 5 minutes. So it'll just start showing off.
Well, you know, TVs have a setting.
I know TVs have a setting, but this just started doing stuff. I didn't even ask it to do anything. You're typing the script and like, I just look over and like, oh my god, it's showing off. That must be what a fade is. I guess there's different types of fades.
Yeah, crossfade.
No, I mean like in this camcorder, like it's just a button. It's not a selector, it's just a button. So I was like, how would you even pick? This is wild. It's just doing random stuff. I've been collecting things for years, and they can still surprise me. There's no settings menu or anything in these camcorders. No option to manually start this demo stuff as far as I know. The only way to know this is there is to stumble on it by leaving the camcorder on for like 5 minutes or more. I'm also very sure that the CC437 does not have this demo feature, only the CC4352. That's crazy. So these camcorders were a very late iteration of RCA's full VHS video camcorders. Now, why did I say RCA in quotes? Well, that's because RCA actually had nothing to do with these camcorders, other than the fact that their name is on it. Most of RCA went defunct and sold off in the late 80s. These being from the late 90s then, there is absolutely no way in hell that these were designed or manufactured by RCA. So who actually made these? Well, when RCA started being sold off, parts of it went in many directions. The direction that the segment of RCA that these would have been responsible for got tossed into the lap of Thomson Consumer Electronics out of Indianapolis. So that's who actually made these. And you can see the proof's in the pudding because it says Thomson Consumer Electronics on the back of both of these units. RCA during this time is what many people like to call a zombie brand. Brand names that were sold off long ago and have little to do with what they once were. This isn't in the script, but another example of this is actually a company called JBL. You might have heard of them, like their speaker systems, like their party boxes and stuff. My friend Tommy Shea has one, and I got one for like a week before I returned it. Do you ever wonder what JBL was? Like who that was? Because that's actually a name. Those are initials. James Bullo Lansing. And he actually killed himself in the 50s, thinking that he was a failed businessman. And I guess after his death, his company name, JBL, got sold off to someone who now makes speakers. So RCA can now be seen branding laptops at Micro Center. No, really. The proof is, again, right in the pudding. Here's some footage that was recorded by my friend Ryan's brother, with the same camera I'm recording this video with, actually, at a Micro Center that we went to a couple weeks ago.
Dude, look! It's an RCA! Wow. What? I want to buy that just for that.
Why?
What the hell? It's not even plugged in here.
$260? That's not bad.
So anyway, I hope this video cured your depression and that the ending didn't re-aggravate it. This has been Mr. Red from Melocore Productions. See you later, and have fun.
Oh, it's RF. Oh.
Wow, I did not know that.